Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio. I'm Tim Grady. I'm here with host Lou Wise, who is the founder of Manufacturing Talk Radio. He's also the president of All Metals and Forge Group. So if you're looking for open die forgings and seamless rolled rings, check out steelforge.com. Joining us today is Stu Johnson, who's vice president of product marketing at Rootstock. I understand, Stu, that you have built Rootstock on top of Salesforce. I'm interested to get into this conversation because Lou and I went through a similar exercise, company to be unnamed. It was awful, but welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Nice beginning.
Yeah, well, still, we tried to build a fancy platform on top of another platform. I understand Rootstock is built on Salesforce. I can tell you it wasn't Salesforce.
Okay, good.
And I'm very excited because what we experience, I think, is the solution that you bring to the table. Or I should say what we didn't experience. And that is if I'm a manufacturer and I want to have something on top of Salesforce, I don't want to have to be the first guy doing it. It's too painful.
Nobody likes to be first. Nobody likes to be first.
So what is that? What Rootstock is? You've layered a ERP on top of Salesforce, and it works like a champ.
Well, yes, but let me take a half a step back. We are built natively on the Salesforce platform, and it's important to understand because I don't think Salesforce has been messaging the platformness of their solution as much, obviously, as they message the CRM side. Now, we of course have a tight relationship with Salesforce, not only as a technology provider, but with the business flow, right? Everything starts with a CRM. You start collecting customer data when you close a deal. And the beauty of the platform, and this is, I think, a simple analogy to the whole thing, is that there's a single common data model. So you capture data once. That data, customer data, shipping data, quantity, blah, 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 is all now part of the database. And so everything we do from then on harvests and leverages that common database. The various steps as you go through, creating a work order or ordering inventory or, shipping finished goods all go back and enrich and embellish that data set for the life of the customer. And that's really the most important thing. The other piece that's worth talking about, I don't know how far we'll go into the sort of platformness bit, but is that Salesforce, having been built as a platform designed for connectability, is very much like the old Lego kits that we all played with. Maybe some of us still do if you got grandkids, where you can sort of snap in let's say a PLM solution that is fuzzy front end, very different, right? The golden thread being requirements. Snap in an ERP where the golden thread is inventory management, right? CRM being sales. The financial component, which is part of Rootstock, would be the golden thread being cash flow, right? So the beauty of that is you run your entire business on a common platform, a common ecosystem, and especially for our customers that are primarily mid-market, that's a huge benefit to their IT teams, right? Enterprise companies, larger companies have armies of IT staff, may even have a whole team of integrators. So integrating one solution to another, which is, commonplace today, is much, much easier on the Salesforce platform. I actually would love to remember the old no software diagram. I kind of would like to have an integration one, right? Integration is a 4-letter word in our vernacular. Not that you can't do it, right? You have to be able to integrate some things, but those core things that you run your business on are designed to work together and not designed to have each an integration that then becomes a fragile liability going forward, right?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that people face during that integration phase is how do I capture my business as it currently runs into the solution rather than the solution changing how I run my business?
Well, you know what, that's a big thing. I've been in enterprise software for about 35 years. and I continue to be astonished how every company has to be different, right? Production manufacturing isn't that different under the sun. Running a forging business or a bearing business isn't that different. But what's interesting is companies get to where they are and make that digital transformation journey in all different ways, right? So as much as anything, they want to capture the way they've done business because it got them there. The real challenge is with like our solution teams and our implementation teams to help educate them to, the things that you are doing differently may not be differentiating, right? This may not be helping you and hurting you. There's a lot of modernity of enterprise software that has streamlined and has sort of built in best practices. And so we like to refer to Rootstock as purpose built for manufacturing, right? It was designed from the beginnings as a manufacturing ERP. So obviously has the core, work streams of finance, all ERPs do, an inventory management, all the way from supplier to finished goods to customers, and then the production components, work orders, quality management, all those kinds of things are built in. But to really the key point of the question is that last mile tailoring. Again, customization is a 4-letter word. Tailoring to suit the business that you're in now, and more than anything, especially since the pandemic, and then pounded on like a big wave with the supply chain disruptions, companies have realized that they must digitally transform, and that's not just new technology, right? You don't just lift and replace the same old bad practices or try to replicate paper-based processes digitally, right? A spreadsheet may be digital, but it's just digital paper. And so that's a big thing in our business is helping companies digitally transform. And again, another plug for the Salesforce platform is unique because it's modern. And I've always hated to use the word modern because obviously modern, right? But I see the Salesforce platform, and I call it a next generation platform, because I believe it's as transformative relative to traditional cloud as cloud was to on-premise a decade ago. And having lived through the paper scenario to the mainframe, I started my career off mainframes, and then representing software in the cloud before we called it cloud, and now onto this next thing that I really think teleports these, especially again, mid-market companies into the future to prepare for that next big disruption, because spoiler alert, there's going to be one.
So, Stu, let me ask you a question. How much I've been really focusing my attention to AI, and I've been learning a lot about it. It's been around a long time, but it's really first coming into its own. And Mr. Musk has now asked for all the research to be stopped for 6 months, which that ain't happening, as they say. So how much of your programming is AI oriented?
So good question, I think, because I've been following this, and I have summarily ignored AI for the first decade or so because it was oversold, overhyped, and especially for manufacturing, the machine language or the machine learning component was really the business end of AI for manufacturing, and so that has been a big part of my experience, and is a big part of the Rootstock future. One of the things that we are focused on right now is, trying to address the core elements of manufacturing. And again, the pandemic sort of laid bare the fundamentals, demand, right? How many companies who had a nice, clean demand plan and a nice future supply plan to determine the magic of their capacity, got all disrupted when things went online, right? So the demand signals have become very digital, right? I can get my orders from Amazon. I can even companies that have sort of replenishment scenarios. Their product, I have a customer, Blendtech, that makes mixers for industrial mixers for kitchens and things. And the beaters, the spatulas wear out. Well, they've got built into their system to measure that and send an order, right? Just a digital signal. Well, on the flip side, the supply chain is not very digitized. At one point, I think that the real fault was the supply chain was optimized within an inch of its life, and then these major disruptions, all the house of cards came tumbling down. So we're really focused on trying to collect the signals that are available from the supply chain. Today, it's mostly a phone call. Where's my stuff, right? But if we have ourselves connected with our suppliers, we can see those signals. All of that comes together, again, the fundamentals to weave into how do I create a capacity plan that I can confidently fulfill based on that dynamic signalized demand against this sort of really physical supply chain. We call it bits versus boxes. And so our go forward strategy is to enlist AI to help that critical calculation. Larger companies who've got the resources would call it S&OP, right? Sales and operations planning. It's a big strategic look at the world. We can't, if we're going to grow this much, we're going to need capacity to grow that much. We're going to have to invest in our supply chain, blah, blah, blah. Well, the mid-market doesn't have that kind of horsepower. They rely on all these technologies to do that. And I think AI, as evidenced, let's say, by ChatGPT, everything is a ChatGPT now. You can actually get, plugins for ChatGPT. How fun would it be to say ChatGPT or Einstein GPT is the Salesforce implementation of that. Order me enough widgets to satisfy ABC, retail for the next 6 months, right? There's enough information in my ERP for a smart bot to go collect some of those bits and start the process. Now, here's the challenge, and here's why I think AI is such a unique application, or this is a unique application of the technology, is AI works best in giant data sets, right? Very big data sets, finding patterns in the data that we didn't even know to look for. And so manipulating that data and calculating these against these big things with predictive analytics, right? That's the sticky wicket, because everything's going to change, right? Everything's going to change. And oh, by the way, some things you're not going to be able to AI yourself out of it, right? I always like to look back at the pandemic and think, somebody said, see how we should have had more IoT in our business. Well, I'm afraid IoT and AI weren't going to suggest plexiglass screens, right? They just weren't. That's a human solution to the problem. And so I always, in any discussion of AI, you have to draw the picture with the human in the middle, right? And this is, I think, what the Musks of the world are worried about, is the human human in the loop is okay. Human out of the loop gets kind of scary, right?
The author James Barrett, who wrote The Final Invention, wrote about AI from the standpoint of a CIA operative and a security operative who wrote this book, and I read it at nighttime before going to bed and scared the you-know-what out of me to the point that I couldn't sleep. He painted the picture of, the HAL computer in Space Odyssey, the evil computer. What evil things could wind up being promoted into an AI environment? and which could possibly predict or create the end of humankind. It was a very scary book.
Yeah, well,
Don't read it and go to sleep.
I'm less worried about that future, but I'm actually, for the first time, really enthused about the AI future, again, with human in the loop, because if you look at the manufacturing space today, as I do, my customers tell me that the biggest problem they have is labor, finding humans to fill a role and keeping that human there. So the more automation that we can introduce, and automation is like robots to do the jobs people don't really want to do anyway, to automate workflow processes, right? Salesforce has this concept of flows. We leverage flows so that a predefined process, once kicked off with the right data, will perform the function as if a human were just a button pusher, right?
Right.
And you glean some percentage of value and productivity. So a lot of times people talk about automation and think shop floor. I'm telling you, modern enterprise systems like ours can automate virtually everything. But here's the thing, you know, the pundits will say, "Oh, ChatGPT is poised to, displace X number of jobs." Okay, well, that's short-sighted. The history of technology has always created more jobs. Now, these are new jobs, right? These are not pick things up and put things down jobs. These are knowledge worker jobs. But anytime a company can displace the work that was hard to resource anyway, and give that same human productive work going forward. I have not met a company that is in growth mode that wouldn't see the deletion of FTEs, full-time equivalents, so that they can redirect that resource for more productive work that humans are good at, right? Humans are good at making decisions and juggling options that if a human didn't program it into the AI is not going to. Or here's the scary part, or it's going to make a decision that isn't driven by the goals that the human or that the company is looking for. And that's, I think, the scary part is it may not perceive that as an error, right? This is what I meant to do. This plant, for some reason, I don't like, so I shut this plant down, right? So those are the fearful things. But again, I'm less worried about that. I'm more worried about our manufacturers, digging their way out and staying productive. And I'm telling you what, despite all the headwinds, despite all of the disruptions, most of my customers, and we just actually did a recent survey that your viewers should stay tuned for, because it bore out a lot of these things that we're concerned about cloud, but cloud's the number one opportunity, right? Depending upon how you ask the question, all of the things people are concerned about with technology, in the next question, they're looking to those technologies to be the solution. And so I'm really I'm thrilled to be where I am in my career and my technology and all that. I can't wait to stop the world and get off, right? Because there's who knows what AI is going to do, but today is a great time to be investing in manufacturing technology.
That said, why don't you give us your URL and, if you wish, your email address so that our listeners can flood you with requests?
Absolutely, happy to take any communiques. We are rootstock.com, as sort of evidenced in my background. My address is SL Johnson, typical spelling, at rootstock.com.
Stu, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to also follow up with you about the survey results. I think we may have another opportunity for you to present those in another media form. So we'll chat about that offline, but we appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for being with us.
It's been a great time. Thanks for having me.
Great conversation. Thank you.
I want to remind all of our viewers that you can find us on your favorite podcast listening platform, including Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those guys, and you may have some other ones that you use. You can also find us on YouTube. Soon we'll be on Rumble. We are on WLEA Radio up in Hornell, New York, and we're expanding through AM/FM syndication. As always, thank you for being with us on this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio.